Hello and welcome to a guide for Galio. In this guide, I'm going to be covering everything that you need to know to be playing Galio. And that includes his abilities, build, spells, rune setup, as well as how to play him in different phases of the game and how you want to fight with him, as well as a bunch of tips and tricks at the end that will take your Galio to the next level. So you want to stick around for that. Let's get right into it. Alright, so before we get into Galio's abilities, we need to quickly go over his passive. And Galio's passive allows him to have his auto attack be buffed and deal AoE damage. And this is great for clearing waves and also for hitting your opponent when they're inside their own minion wave. So that's how his passive works, and it's a really great tool just for dealing AoE damage, as I said, and also clearing out those minion waves. So the first skill in Galio's kit is his wind blades, and basically shoots two different wind blades, and if they get hit by the side, then they will also be hit with damage. But you want to be trying to land it in the middle where the two of them will converge. This will also slow them a ton, which will combo really nicely into your third skill, which is a bit hard to hit. So after you use your first skill, you can combo into your other skills, making them much more easier to hit. Alright, so next we have Galio's second skill, and when Galio levels this skill up, then he'll gain a shield that will shield him from AP damage. And this makes Galio a really great counter to AP champions in the mid lane like Annie or Ari or even Akali, who are all really meta. So Galio is a really hard counter to those champions because of his shield. He can win so many trades and he's just so tanky that assassins like Akali just can't seem to burst him down. The active on the skill is a taunt, and when you release it, it will taunt an enemy and bring them towards you and make them auto attack you. It's kind of like a charm, except instead of just bringing them towards you, they are going to try to auto attack you instead. Also, when you activate the skill, you are going to gain a ton of magic resist and physical resist, which is really nice. So that's what you need to know about Galio's second skill. Alright, so next we have Galio's third skill, and what Galio's third skill does is it charges him back a tiny bit, and then he'll charge forward until he hits a champion. But after he hits a champion, he can't keep on going forward. So after I hit him, then I can't go through him, and I can't hit any targets behind him. It's important to note that this CC is a little bit hard to hit, so it's a lot better combined after you use your first skill or your second skill. And I'll be showing you exactly how to do that in the combo section of this video. Another thing to note is this ability will not go over any walls, no matter how you use it, so that's also important to note. Alright, lastly we have Galio's ultimate, and what it does is it will go to an ally target, and it's one of those roaming abilities, kind of like similarly to Twisted Fate or Pantheon, where he has a global ultimate that can affect other lanes, and what it does is when you go and engage, then it will give your ally a shield, as well as knock any enemy champions up and transport you also towards that ally. It's a really useful and impactful ultimate, as all of the other global ultimates are, and this is why I think Galio is going to be a really meta champ, especially because he can side lane and then easily join and help his carries and his front line by engaging with his ult, which is going to be really awesome. Alright, so the first combo that we're going to be learning is Galio's standard level 3 engage, and this is when you want to use your third skill to engage. So after your opponent is immobilized or CC'd, you can also use this combo. So what you want to do is use your third skill to knock them up. After that, use your second skill to taunt them while they're knocked up to get a free taunt. And then after that, use your first skill and then auto attack. You can follow up with more auto attacks if you need to. Alright, so the second combo that you want to be knowing with Galio is when someone face checks you or they don't have a dash. So because this combo is going to start off with your second skill. So you have your second skill, and then after you taunt them, you're going to be using your first skill and your third skill. And this will almost always guarantee a hit unless they flash. And then after that, you want to follow up with your auto attack that has been buffed by your passive. So the reason why you want to CC them before you use your third skill is because it is a little bit hard to hit without any CC first. So that's his face check combo, or any combo that you can use when the enemy is CC'd, and you can guarantee a second skill landing. Alright, so the next combo that we're going to be learning is Galio's combo that he wants to be when he uses his ultimate. So what he wants to be doing is first engaging with his ultimate. So this will assist his front line and also knock up any champions that are nearby. So after you ult, then you can use your second skill. You can also hold this while you're ulting to taunt in the enemy champions, and then use your first skill and third skill to engage onto one of the champions to deal a bunch of damage. And then after that, you want to follow up with an auto attack to deal damage from your passive and that empowered auto attack.
I wake, I break. Your coordinates.
Alright, so now we're going into Galio's build. So for Galio's first item, you can be getting Rod of Ages. And the reason why a lot of people are building Rod of Ages is it because it gives you a bunch of max health, ability power, and max mana, but it also stacks over throughout the course of the entire game. And it really helps Galio scale better. However, you can also go and skip this item altogether in the build if you just want that early game damage, especially if you're going up against an AP mid laner. You really want to capitalize on your advantage. So even though a lot of people are building Rod of Ages, it's not a necessity, and don't think that you're forced into buying this item first. However, that's the item that I do build first. The second item that you can build is Rally's Crystal Scepter. And the reason why this item is really good on Galio is not only does it give him more max health and ability power, it also slows enemies whenever he uses an ability or damages them. And this really helps you use your third skill a lot more easier, and it makes him be able to hit his combos a lot more fluidly. So the next item that you want to be getting after that is a boot item. And I recommend the same boot items as I do with almost every tank, either Ninja Tabbies or Mercury Treads, but the Ninja Tabbies have been renamed to Plated Steel Caps just in case you're confused. If you're going up against lots of CC and magic damage, then you want to be buying Mercury Treads. If you're going up against more AD, then you want to be going for the Plated Steel Caps. For the enchant that you want to be going on top of that, there are actually quite a few options. So the ones that I would recommend for you is the first one that you can be taking is the Stoneplate enchant. So the Stoneplate enchant is basically the Gargoyle enchant, but they changed the name. So it'll reduce a lot of the damage that you take. So if you don't have any frontline or tank on your team, then you want to be taking this, as you can soak up most of the damage with Galio, especially if you go for a bit more of a tanky build. But the other item that you can go for is the QSS, and the Quicksilver Sash is really great when you're up against heavy CC team comp. So for example, someone like Leona that can stun you and slow you at every turn, then you want to be buying an item like the Quicksilver Sash. You can also be going the Locket enchant, and this will provide a lot of support to your team, and it will help you to have more survivability, especially against AoE damage against your team. So after your enchant, you want to be going for Liandry's Torment. And the reason why you go for Liandry's Torment, it also builds on your max health and AP, but the passive on this item really synergizes well with Galio's kit. So you want to be building this item next. After that, you can go for two situational items. And the first one that you always want to be considering with any AP mid laner is going to be Death Cap, and it's a huge power spike. So if you're just carrying the game, go Death Cap and you'll have an even bigger lead on your opponents, because this item will just allow you to dish out even more damage than you already are. If you are looking to have more utility and bring your ult cooldown lower because you are maybe side laning more and you need it to join team fights, or you find yourself using his ult a lot to roam to other lanes, then you want to be getting Awakened Soul Stealer, as the passive on this item really helps you to do that. If the enemy team has healing, you obviously want to be taking Morlanomicon, as this will apply grievous wounds to the enemies and reduce their healing. Lastly, the last item that you can be going for is Void Staff, and I would only recommend this item if you did go Death Cap first, or else it doesn't make too big of an impact. But if a lot of people are building MR and you want to have some magic penetration, then Void Staff is always a great item to do exactly that. So now we're going to be going into the runes for Galio, and the runes that I currently use are either Electrocute for more damage, and this is when you want to be going up against AP mid laners that you counter. You want to be using Electrocute to really have that burst damage against them and to win lane as hard as you can. But if you are going up against a harder matchup, like an AD matchup that you don't do so well against, then I would recommend a different rune, either Fleet Footwork or Grasp. You can also go Aftershock if you are playing support Galio, so it really depends on what you're playing, but against most AP mid laners, I would take Electrocute. The rune after that is up to you. I like taking Brutal if you want to just destroy lane early game, especially again if you're playing against an AP mid laner. I would recommend taking Brutal, but you can also go a rune like Weakness that gives you extra damage for your entire team after you impair the movement of another champion. So that's also a rune that you want to be taking into consideration. After that, you can be going for a Resolve rune. I usually take one either Backbone or Conditioning. Both of them are really great on Galio if you need extra magic resist and if you need more armor or magic resist. But the other rune that you can be taking is Spirit Walker if you need more max health and slow resist, especially if the enemy team has lots of CC. You want to be taking Spirit Walker so you can have a lot more tenacity with that. Lastly, you can go for Sweet Tooth as your last rune. I like it because it gives you a bunch more sustain and that extra gold just in case you need to give up CS. Especially in harder lanes that Galio has trouble in, taking Sweet Tooth is not a bad option. Don't be afraid to take this rune. I know it's a little bit, I know you can lose out and you can take other runes that have a bit more value like Mastermind, but Sweet Tooth is always a reliable option and will always give you a chance to win lane. Even if you mess up a little bit, you can always give up CS with the extra gold that you get from this rune, as well as have that extra bit of sustain. So the spells that you want to be taking are going to be in the mid lane. I would recommend Flash and Ignite. And the reason why you're playing Flash Ignite is to have a bit more burst and to play a bit more aggressively into the early phases of the game, especially if you are playing in a lane where you dominate, and especially if you're playing against someone like Akali or another mid laner, AP mid laner like that. You want to be taking Ignite so that you can get solo kills into the early game, as well as have that grievous wounds effect for any healing on the enemy team. Also, I feel like the other combination of spells that you can go for is Barrier and Flash, and this is when you want to have a bit more sustain against the enemy team. Let's say that you're the only tank and you're the main engage on your team, then maybe you can go Barrier to sustain a little bit more burst damage. Or if you're going up against an assassin like Fizz or Zed, where you want to mitigate some of the burst damage against them, if you have trouble laning against them, then you can definitely take Barrier as well. But you can but the spell combination I would recommend is Ignite and Flash. Alright, so now we are in the tips and tricks section, and for my first tip for you guys is think about your roams and really think before you go and commit to a roam and think, is this going to work out? What is the percentage chance that this roam is going to work out? And if it's not above 50 and you're going to lose CS for that roam, then don't go for that roam. If you have a 50% win rate with your roams, then you're just going to be stuck at a 50% win rate for your games and you're not going to be going anywhere. So you don't want to go for useless roams, and you want to think about every roam that you go for and think, is this really going to help me? Alright, so my second tip for you is to prioritize your own CS and XP above getting your other laners farmed unless they are super ahead. So you want to be prioritizing your own XP and gold because you really can't trust your teammates to carry the game. And let's just be honest here, no one really trusts their teammates. You can't depend on your teammates and call team diff every time you lose. You have to really try to get yourself ahead by not giving up so much CS and gold, especially when you roam, and really make sure that you are getting fed and you don't get behind your enemy mid laner. So my third tip for you is to side lane in the mid to late game. You have a really nice ultimate, and this also applies for any champion with a global ultimate like Asol or Pantheon or Galio. So these champions should be side laning because they can use their global ultimate or teleport, if they do take teleport, to get back to their team fights and force fights with a numbers advantage. That's one of the advantages with the global ultimate. Recently, I've been getting a lot of players on my team, either Galios or Pantheons, that have not been side laning for some reason or another. For some reason, they just want to go and ARAM in mid. That's not what you want to be doing. You want to be going into the side lanes. You want to be pushing out those sideways, putting pressure onto the enemy team. And when they come, you can go and force a fight in mid with a numbers advantage. So that's what you want to be doing and looking to do with global ultimates. So my fourth tip for you is to think about what lane you gank. I see so many mid laners, not just Galio, but tons of mid laners, but I guess especially Galios, that look and they only gank bot. And the reason why you usually gank bot is it's usually a good thing to gank bot, right? There's two squishy champions, you can pick up a double kill, you can get two champions ahead instead of just one, and you have options for going for dragon after you gank that lane. But why wouldn't you want to go gank bot? Well, the reason is because if you do always gank a bot, and let's say the enemy team is playing safe and it's not working out, then you really need to think and reconsider where you're ganking, especially if the enemy top laner is fed. If they have a fed Camille on their team and they're taking out your AD carry every single team fight, that's not going to be fun. You're not going to win that game. You need to consider ganking top as well. And I used to fall into this trap a lot of only ganking bot. But when you have your win condition and you have your carry potential in top lane, if your top laner is playing someone that snowballs really hard and can 1v5 games like Darius, like Camille or Fiora, if you have those champions fed on your team, you're more likely going to win a match. And so you want to be trying to roam to that lane. By the way, I have made a full roaming guide if you want to learn more about roaming and how to really win games through roams. Let's say you are getting really good KDAs, you are getting fed, but you calling team diff every single game. I'm pretty sure there's more that you could have done. If you want to watch my roaming guide, there should be a link on the screen right now and a link in the description down below. So my next tip for you is to flank and ambush more. You know, Galio is one of those champions that can be peeled really easily if the enemy team has CC and you don't take QSS, then they're just going to slow you or they're going to stun you and you really can't chase. It's really easy to peel against Galio. So what you want to be doing is either flanking or ambushing or like bush camping and trying to hit your enemy at unexpected angles with flash and your taunt to pick up free kills. My next tip for you is when to pick Galio, and you want to be picking Galio mostly into AP mid laners. This includes Akali, Annie, and those types of AP mid laners are what Galio does really well against. He doesn't do too well into AD, and he's more of a pocket pick, kind of like Fizz, who only can play certain matchups. Like if you pick Fizz into Acel, obviously you're going to be dominating that lane. Even though Acel is a higher tier pick, it's the same thing with Galio and Akali. Even though Akali is a higher tier pick in the current meta, Galio can just dominate her in lane. So you want to be really considering what picks that you're going against and what the enemy team comp is, so that you can use him to the maximum efficiency. My last tip for you is to subscribe. I don't know about you, but like all my subscribers recently, they have been getting that elo, they have been ranking up. If you want to improve at Wild Rift, you can subscribe to the channel. I promise you, you won't regret it. There's so much guides and educational content on this channel that I put out for you at a very frequent basis. If you want to subscribe, that would absolutely mean the world to me. And drop a like on the video and leave a comment down below if you made it this far. By the way, I did make a combo guide for Galio earlier today. I'll leave a link right at the end of the video and pinned in the comments down below. I love you guys so much. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye!